All right, Abdalla, Peter King, Monday morning quarterback. It's out for this week, and he has his off-season power rankings.
I just like the idea because it is so long of Peter King sitting down to a laptop and literally doing the finger knuckles cracking where he spreads them out and is like, all right, here we go. And like, I really like Peter King. He's a good writer. He's a very nice guy, but like he's got great NFL information. But I just imagine him like sitting down with like a fresh cup of coffee. Like you can see the steam rising off of it. And he's like, all right, here we go. And he's just typing away, and it just goes 4 hours later.
Well, I actually picture a different setting. I like your idea, but I picture it to be like Misery, where Peter King is trapped in a cabin somewhere, and Kathy Bates is threatening to break his ankles.
He's literally chained to the typewriter.
Unless he types 20,000 words every Monday about the National Football League. That's what I picture.
It would be great, too, if he was super old school and still used the typewriter and then scanned it to the editor. Like he puts it in the fax machine and sends it to the editor as he's using like whiteout.
He and Tom Hanks are the only two in America still using typewriters. I mean, it's that's what I picture, is that he's in a cabin in the woods. Maybe the coffee's there, right?
Yeah, the coffee has to be there.
So your image of him waking up and thinking of it, but I just picture Kathy Bates standing in the door frame, waiting.
More.
Tell me, write more.
Get to the haiku.
More. So today it was released, and he had the off-season power rankings. Bleck and Abdalla, we were in for Greeny last week, and we talked about our 5 up and 5 down for the NFL. Now, the Bears did not make either of our bottom 5. Peter King has the Bears squarely in the middle of the bottom 5. Here's the bottom of the table for Peter King when it comes to the National Football League. Arizona's the worst team. Tampa Bay at 31. Houston at 30. Chicago at 29. LA Rams at 28. Your first thought, seeing that the Bears are only 29th after all of the great moves that Ryan Poles has put together here in the offseason?
Well, just knowing how Peter King does things like this, I'm not surprised because of his explanation. And he says the Bears have fixed a lot of things in one offseason without question and could be anywhere on this list from 31 to 13 by December. But today I need to see more of Justin Fields, the passer, to fall in like with this team. And that's, to me, that's a fair assessment. Yeah, on paper, they've done a lot. You add DJ Moore, you get your cornerstone tackle, like you add more running backs to the room. You add another wide receiver in the draft, who we'll get to because Darnell Mooney is apparently still injured and might not, and is supposed to be healthy by training camp in a couple months. So there's a lot of stuff that's been done, and yeah, we can say those one-score losses will translate into a few more one-score wins, and maybe you win 8 or 9 games. But until you actually see the product on the field, I have no problem with people around the NFL, like Peter King or ESPN or whoever it is, putting the Bears in that bottom 5 because you want to see the results first. You can win the offseason and it translates to nothing on the field. We've seen that more often than not, that a team will, quote, win the offseason and spend a bunch of money in free agency, and then, well, they're picking in the top 5 in the draft the next year because it didn't the money didn't translate to wins. I think that Ryan Poles has done a good job building the depth of this team. There are a few stars on this team, like DJ Moore, like Tremaine Edmonds, that they did bring in. And yeah, you hope that Justin Fields takes that next step as a passer with better weapons around him. But until we see it translate into wins, it's all just hope at this point, and us believing in Justin Fields in the offense, maybe more so than, people in the national media do.
Now, as we continue on with the rankings, Washington's 27, Indianapolis is 26, and Carolina is 25. I think we could make the argument right now that the Rams and the Colts are both below where the Bears are at. Yeah. Now, I know the Rams have had a lot of success in recent history, but the way that their franchise has organized the roster, where you basically gave up all those first-round draft picks for players who were stars, but not all of them are still there, it's a depleted roster that the Rams are now building back up, and it's basically all contingent on Matthew Stafford staying healthy, which at times he has struggled to do so. So if Stafford's not healthy, if they can't change the depth out on the back end of the roster, I think Chicago at the moment is better than the LA Rams. In Indianapolis, Anthony Richardson as your new quarterback, I don't know how that's going to work early. It may work out in like 3 years where he's a solid starter, maybe on his way to be a star. I'm okay with giving credit to that. I just don't know if that's going to happen immediately for the Colts, and I would still put the Bears ahead of the Colts in that situation.
I would put the Panthers in that situation as well. I don't know what Bryce Young is going to be. The Panthers made a lot of moves. They made some great moves in the draft, getting Bryce Young, getting those guys. That's fine. Those are great moves. But this team could win their division and have less wins than the Bears. Like last year, the Bucs won that division with 8 wins. The Bucs are going to be one of the worst teams in the NFL. The Falcons, I don't know what they're going to be. I don't really trust Desmond Ridder to be the quarterback, and they apparently do. And so it's going to be a battle between the Panthers, the Saints, and the Falcons. The Panthers could win that division with 8 wins. The Bears could win 9 games and still not win their division. The Vikings won 13 games last year. The Lions won 9 and the Packers won 8. That's already at the same or more than a division-winning team last year in the Bucs.
Commanders at 27. Who's their quarterback?
Exactly.
Like they're a solid average team, right? They're not a team that I would expect to make the playoffs, but I don't think that they're one of the worst teams, but I still think that
but their defense is so much better.
The Bears are a better team than the Commanders.
They have a better offense.
Who would be favorite if they were matched up today, neutral field? Who would be the favorite?
Oh, that's tough. Because
you really think that that's a pick?
The Commanders have a much better defense.
Bears, Commanders.
You got to think
they can't score on offense. The Bears can at least score on offense.
I would say I'm with Shay. I would say a pick 'em, and if it depending on where they were, you might get the 2.5 or 3 point swing based on who's the home team.
I'm a Sam Howell guy.
So do you believe in Sam Howell?
I don't know if I believe in him.
You're the one.
Shea Norling.
Sammy Heisman out of North Carolina.
Yeah, how'd that work? How'd that go? So like that's the bottom of the group. I think Chicago would be a favorite against Carolina, Indianapolis. LA Rams is interesting. If Stafford's healthy, if Donald's healthy, based on location, I would imagine the Rams may still be the favorite in that matchup.
Yeah, I think they would be. But I've got no problem putting the Bears ahead of, like, if I had to make power rankings, I'm not putting the Bears in the teens just yet, but they would be higher than 29. They would probably be ahead of the Colts, ahead of Carolina, ahead of the Rams. I mean, what about the teams that he deems they've got holes? So that would be at the bottom of that 24th, you have New Orleans, 23rd, you have Denver, 22, you have Atlanta. Like, I think the Bears could be better than a couple of those teams. I don't know what Denver's going to look like this year. You know, with a new coaching staff for Russell Wilson, is Russell Wilson going to look like he did last year? Is he going to look like previous years? What is Russell Wilson going to look like this year? There's so many question marks that Sean Payton has to address now with that team.
And, you know, with Russell Wilson, he might be...
might just be living dangerous.
Trying to get you to eat his sandwich.
Hey, you want to split this Subway sandwich? Be careful, though. It's spicy.
I think that, do whatever it takes to
What did that? What?
come to find out what you mean.
What?
Be careful, though. It's spicy.
So there you go. I agree with you. I'm not sure about Denver. And the reason that on Bleck and Abdalla we give you 5 up, 5 down is basically most of the NFL is in the middle.
Yeah.
And most teams are around 500, fighting for the playoffs, but they don't make it. And when you look at Peter King's list, the power rankings, his top 5 match my top 5 when it comes to the 5 up. He has Philadelphia 1, Kansas City 2, Cincinnati 3, San Francisco 4, and Buffalo 5. To me, those are the 5 best teams in the NFL. They were the 5 best teams at the end of last season. I think in the offseason, they've continued to stay in that spot. You did have one team in the 5 last week that's not listed here.
I had the Ravens in there.
Who's the team that you took out?
I believe it was San Francisco. Because I think I had Buffalo in there, definitely Cincinnati, Kansas City, and Philly. Philly was number 1. We both had Kansas City and Philly as number 1 and 2. And I would imagine for the most of the season, barring any injuries, we'll have Philadelphia and Kansas City in the top, and then we'll always have Arizona at the bottom. And right now you're already seeing, articles about how Arizona is going to control the draft next year because they have those 2 picks that could be the first 2 overall picks. So I think we're going to have a lot of agreement as far as our top teams because that's what the NFL is. There's like 3 great teams, Philadelphia, Kansas City, Cincinnati, and then there's like 2 horrible teams. And Tampa might be bad, but they could win, 3-4 games, something like that. But Arizona and the Texans right now probably are going to be the 2 worst teams in the NFL.